10 Lies Mormons Tell Themselves. The concept behind 10 Lies Mormons Tell Themselves is to confront the familiar apologetic excuses Latter-day Saints cling to when faced with the contradictions, cover-ups, and corruption in their church's history, doctrine, and leadership. These claims aren't harmless misunderstandings. They're deliberate mental gymnastics designed to shield faith from facts. When held up to scrutiny, these narratives crumble. Below is a breakdown of 10 of the most common lies Mormon apologists tell themselves and others, and why every one of them falls apart under critical examination. 1. The church is perfect, but the people aren't. Flaw. This claim conveniently blames the church's most egregious failures, polygamy, racism, and shifting doctrine, on mere human weakness, while ignoring the cold reality of calculated institutional doctrinal deception. The truth is, many of these problems weren't the result of well-meaning but flawed members. They originated at the top. False prophecies, historical cover-ups, and blatant doctrinal contradictions were crafted, promoted, and enforced by church leadership itself. This wasn't human error. It was deliberate manipulation disguised as revelation. 2. You just need to pray about it. Flaw. This argument leans on the flawed idea that spiritual feelings are a reliable measure of truth. But emotional experiences are universal. Members of every religion, from Islam to Hinduism to Scientology, claim the same burning conviction that their beliefs are true. Feelings can be easily manufactured through emotional manipulation. Stirring music, rehearsed testimonies, repetition, and relentless social pressure all prime the mind for confirmation bias. Worse yet, when subjective feelings are treated as superior to evidence, it traps believers in a cycle of circular reasoning, where faith validates itself while ignoring facts that contradict it. It's not spiritual discernment, it's psychological conditioning. 3. The prophet can never lead the church astray. Flaw. This claim collapses under the weight of history. Brigham Young openly preached racist doctrines and the Adam God theory, even embedding it into the sacred temple endowment ceremony, declaring it divine, unquestionable truth. Yet by the 20th century, the church scrambled to disavow it, brushing it off as Young's personal opinion. So which is it? Was Brigham Young lying, or has church leadership been lying to cover his tracks for over a century? Then there's the priesthood ban on black members, upheld by multiple prophets, declared as God's eternal will, only to be quietly reversed in 1978, with the church now pretending it was never doctrinal in the first place. If past prophets could publicly preach false doctrine, oppress people in the name of God, and have their successors bury the evidence, why should anyone believe today's leaders are any different? Either prophets can and have led the church astray, or this entire narrative is a convenient lie designed to protect the institution at any cost. 4. Anti-Mormon lies are just Satan trying to destroy your testimony. Flaw. This is a coward's excuse to avoid confronting uncomfortable truth. Labeling criticism as anti-Mormon lies is a lazy, defensive tactic meant to scare members away from facts the church doesn't want them to see. The irony? Most of these so-called anti-Mormon claims aren't wild conspiracies. They're pulled straight from the church's own archives. The Journal of Discourses, the Joseph Smith Papers, official church essays, and statements from its own prophets and apostles. Claiming Satan is behind every critical voice is nothing more than an ad hominem fallacy, attacking the messenger instead of addressing the message. These aren't anti-Mormon smears, they're historically grounded critiques, exposing the whitewashed, selectively edited, and deliberately misleading narrative the LDS Church has pushed for generations. Don't take my word for it, take theirs. Boyd K. Packer once warned church educators, "There is a temptation for the writer or teacher of church history to want to tell everything, whether it is worthy or faith-promoting or not. Some things that are true are not very useful." Translation: hide anything that might damage faith, even if it's true. And former apostle Bruce R. McConkie made the church's authoritarian stance crystal clear. It is my province to teach to the church what the doctrine is. It is your province to echo what I say or to remain silent. This isn't about protecting testimonies from Satan. It's about protecting an institution from accountability. Critics aren't out to destroy faith. They're shining a light on over a century of lies, cover-ups, and historical distortions. If the truth threatens a testimony, maybe the problem isn't the critics. Maybe it's the story the church has been selling all along. 5. People leave the church because they were offended or wanted to sin. Flaw. This is a dishonest, manipulative smear tactic that misrepresents why people actually leave. The claim that ex-members leave because they were offended or wanted to sin is one of the oldest, most cowardly deflections the LDS Church has ever employed, a tactic that traces right back to Joseph Smith himself. It's not about truth, it's about controlling the narrative. By framing every defector as weak, bitter, or morally corrupt, the Church conveniently avoids addressing the real reasons people walk away. And those reasons are clear. Study after study confirms that most people leave because of serious historical contradictions, doctrinal problems, and moral failures by church leadership, not because Sister Jones forgot to say hi at sacrament meeting, or because someone wanted to break the word of wisdom. This narrative isn't just lazy, it's character assassination. It's a deliberate strategy to shame, silence, and discredit those who dare to question. I know this because I'm one of those so-called offended sinners. Except I wasn't offended, and I didn't leave to sin. I left because the historical record and doctrinal inconsistencies shattered the church's credibility. If I'd wanted to sin, I could have done it quietly while still a member, repented later, and gone on with my life inside the system. That's not why people leave. People leave because they wake up, and the church can't handle that, so it attacks their character instead. If you stop, think logically, and look at this claim for what it is, it collapses under its own hypocrisy. It's not about sin. It's not about offense. It's about truth, and the church's long-standing desperation to bury it. 6. There's no way Joseph Smith could have written the Book of Mormon. Flaw. This is a lazy, faith-promoting myth that collapses under even basic scrutiny. The claim that Joseph was too uneducated to produce the Book of Mormon ignores a mountain of evidence. Joseph Smith had direct access to the King James Bible. Entire passages were lifted straight from it, errors and all. He was surrounded by the language of Methodist revivalism and steeped in the religious folklore of early 19th century America. And crucially, he lived in a region saturated with speculative books like View of the Hebrews, The Late War, and the First Book of Napoleon, all of which share uncanny similarities in theme, language, and structure with the Book of Mormon. And let's not ignore the glaring anachronisms. The Book of Mormon talks about steel, horses, wheat, and domesticated animals in ancient America, things that didn't exist in the pre-Columbian New World. It parrots 19th century ideas about Native Americans, lost tribes of Israel, and frontier religious anxieties, not ancient history. On top of that, Joseph wasn't some clueless farm boy. He was charismatic, imaginative, and already well known for spinning elaborate tales long before he claimed to translate golden plates. By the time the Book of Mormon appeared, Joseph had all the tools he needed: access to source material, religious language, cultural mythology, and a knack for storytelling. The idea that he couldn't have written it isn't just wrong, it's willful ignorance. The evidence doesn't point to divine revelation. It points to a clever 19th century fabrication dressed up in biblical language and frontier theology. And once you stop relying on faith-based assumptions and actually examine the historical record, this apologetic claim falls apart. 7. If the church weren't true, it would have failed by now. Flaw. Survival is not proof of truth. It's proof of persistence, manipulation, and control. Consider Islam, Hinduism, Scientology, and Jehovah's Witnesses. Each has endured and in some cases flourished, despite being fundamentally exclusive and contradictory to one another. The fact that something persists for centuries speaks not to its truth, but to its ability to enforce conformity, control its followers, and adapt to societal structures. The survival of a belief system often hinges on power, influence, and manipulation, not divine authenticity. 8. Prophets speak as men sometimes. Flaw. This is nothing more than a convenient excuse for failed prophecies and doctrinal contradictions. If prophets are wrong about critical issues, polygamy, race, the Adam God doctrine, how can members ever be sure when they're speaking with divine authority and when they're simply voicing personal opinions? The blurred line between revelation and human error creates a dangerous loophole. The claim that prophets can speak for God and as men only invites uncertainty. Doctrines, once claimed to be divinely revealed, are conveniently rebranded as personal views when they fail, offering church leaders an easy escape hatch. There's no clear standard to know when a prophet speaks for God and when they speak for themselves, leaving the door wide open for manipulation and evasion. 9. We shouldn't expect proof. Faith is a test. Flaw. This argument is a classic case of moving the goalposts, using the absence of evidence as a shield to deflect valid scrutiny. The Book of Mormon claims to be a historical record, yet there are no verified Nephite cities, artifacts, or DNA evidence to support it. The Book of Abraham, once touted as an ancient record of Abraham's time in Egypt, has been thoroughly debunked as Egyptian funerary text with no connection to Abraham whatsoever. These are just a few examples. There are countless others that remain unaddressed. Faith should not demand the suspension of logic, the ignoring of glaring contradictions, or the suppression of critical thought. The absence of proof should never be framed as evidence of faith's strength. It's a sign of a system trying to protect itself from scrutiny. 10. Where else would I go? Flaw. This is a classic appeal to consequences, not to truth. Staying in the church simply because it offers community or moral structure does not make it true. It only makes it convenient. Many ex-Mormons discover greater peace, fulfillment, and integrity after leaving. Some explore other Christian faiths, others embrace different belief systems, and many become agnostic or atheistic. What they find is a world of freedom, self-discovery, and opportunities that were previously stifled by the strict regulations of the LDS Church. Life beyond the church isn't a void. It's a rich, expansive experience that allows for personal growth and a deeper understanding of self. The church is not the center of existence. It's simply one narrow path among many. Final thoughts. These lies endure because they offer psychological comfort, allowing members to rationalize glaring inconsistencies. However, when subjected to critical thinking and historical scrutiny, these apologetics crumble, exposing their deep flaws and the fragility of the narratives that sustain them. Thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for today.